All right. We have officially started the Minnesota Wild season. And as such, we got Joe Smith, Mike Russo here to talk about. And guys, let's just start with what do we think so far? Blanket statement.
Well, first of all, Joe, do you recognize the hotel room I'm in? That blinds?
Oh, the blackout blinds, or whatever it is. So,
yep. Do you recognize this hotel?
Is it the Dallas Westin?
You had a traumatic experience here once.
The Dallas Westin?
No, the Dallas. Wasn't it at the Marriott that the thing?
It was at the Marriott. Yeah, it was
at
Marriott when I thought my life was in danger the last time I was in Dallas.
So story.
Yeah, tell the story.
Which is why Russo's on this trip. Partly, the last trip to Dallas I was at, I had like a upgraded room, so it had like a hallway and it had like an extra like living room area. But it was like 3 a.m, and all of a sudden I heard the door open, like not a knock on the door, just like the door just opening, like the sound of it. And so I was like freaked out. I'm like, what is going on here? And so like I get up and it's all dark, right? And I'm looking down the hallway. All of a sudden there's this guy with this like wheeling a cart, with like a drill and stuff. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing here? And a maintenance guy, apparently. They said allegedly. I never found out who the guy was or what, but at 3 a.m. to have a maintenance guy allegedly coming in to fix something like a router or something like that was a little odd. So I had a fun conversation with the manager the next day. And I now have 10% share of Marriott. Thank you very much. Yeah.
I was actually hoping that I kept my door unlocked last night, hoping it would happen to me. I would own Marriott if that happened to me. I would have a free trip to Hawaii if this happened to me. I'd have 500,000 Marriott points if that happened to me. Did you, by the way, know that like apparently we've been mispronouncing Marriott for like ever? Did I send you that video?
Marriott? Is it Marriott?
Yeah, it's Marriott apparently. So, yep. And 3 years ago when the playoffs were here, I was getting death threats. So far, both Joe and me love coming to Dallas.
So if there could be any other playoff matchup but the Wild in Dallas, that'd be great. Even Winnipeg.
Exactly what it'll be.
But yeah, I mean, the start of the season, like clearly, some interesting games so far. Like you go from Monday night's game where Wallstedt had a heck of a performance and bounced back after they coughed up the third period lead there to come through and win. So. Game 1 was just in St. Louis with the 5-1 win and a power play showing up. And I don't know what to make of the Columbus game, Mike, but to be start the season 2-1, heading into this, 5-game road trip, obviously puts them in a better footing, but there's still some questions on this team that need to get answered, but overall there's also a lot of positives to get going on with this team.
Yeah, definitely. And one of those positives is the power play, 8 power play goals right now. Their penalty kills actually been really good. I know they gave up the 5-on-3 goal a couple nights ago, and then last night had the one in the third period. But it's been really good. Obviously, the huge 4-on-3 kill in overtime yesterday. But their special teams have been good. Who would think it that with a team that's usually really good 5-on-5, that right now 5-on-5 scoring is their biggest concern. Their top line's been outstanding. They haven't gotten much production from any of the other lines. Obviously, Hartman scored a couple huge goals in opening night in St. Louis. So. Right now, more to like than not like, but going into a 5-game road trip, which tonight we know is going to be really tough against Dallas on a second of a back-to-back when they're rested. That's where a lot of the concerns that I have could rear its ugly head. How long can you keep Boldy and Kaprizov together if it's just going to be simple for these 5 teams on the road to check them? Really focus in on one line. So they've got to figure out a way to get the second line going. I think Johansson there actually works better right now than anybody else. The question is, can Tarasenko at even strength get going? He has 3 power play assists, but hasn't done much at even strength. I thought their fourth line looked much better than it did in its first 2 games yesterday. So Urov at center makes sense. They just sent Hunter Haight down, which makes a lot of sense. Iowa's off to a 0-2 start, and they'll get him playing and a lot of minutes. The big question I have, Joe, is David Jiricek next? I don't know when this pod comes out, so maybe we'll have that answer by then. But I think with 8 defensemen on the roster and Hunt being clearly a waiver risk because Columbus would just likely take him back and put him right in Cleveland. If Jiricek's the 8th defenseman on the trip and they get out of tonight's game healthy, I think they send Jiricek right to Charlotte tomorrow on the same plane Hunter Haight's on. I think they'd be going to Charlotte, but regardless, I don't think there's any reason to really carry 8D right now. I think getting him playing makes a lot of sense. We'll see.
Yeah, he needs to play. And again, there's a lot of things to like about Juracek. I think there's, he's got the size, he's got the shot, he's some offensive instincts. There's tools there. Just he's not a finished product yet. Very much a work in progress. And when you have some of the mistakes that he's made in the games, I don't think necessarily the coaching staff trusts him completely yet. And they're in a position now where every point, even early in the season, matters. As the road trips gonna be very difficult. That they probably feel more comfortable. Obviously having Bogosian, who's played well, I think. With William in the third pair, and then they've changed the pairs around for Monday's game. So nothing wrong with him getting more playing time, and he'd play top pair minutes in all situations in Iowa. And so I think he'll be back, of course, if he is indeed sent down. But there's no need for him to be watching the press box with Goligoski or me or you, whoever. So I think it's important for him to play.
Yeah. I think it was good to have that one game the other day where he sat with Goligoski the whole time, but Goose isn't going to be on the road trip, so it makes sense to have him go down. And that St. Louis game was a perfect example where sometimes eye tests is more valuable than analytics. And he might have been +3 that game, and their analytics for Bogosian and Juracek might have looked fine. But, one big reason for that is that the mistakes he made, St. Louis just wasn't efficient with them and didn't even get shot attempts off. So he had the one mistake that he made where he put the puck on Thomas's stick, but Thomas overskated the net and didn't get a shot off. So that doesn't even get measured into Juracek's numbers that night. And same thing when he got walked at the blue line and took the penalty. Same exact thing. So I don't think he was very good that night. So I just think that that would make a lot of sense. But we'll see. I mean, this is obviously conjecture.
And I think the fans ask, how do you know if the guys are ready or can be ready unless you give them a chance, right? People talk about that with Jurov.
They've given him a chance.
Yeah, what I'm saying, we had that column on Monday, the Insider, they obviously have these young guys, they want to play them and they want to give them a chance. But John Hines put under more pressure than anybody in the organization, more than Guerin, more than anybody else. He wants to win games and he has to put guys that he trusts there. So it's a balancing act of giving them enough chances while also knowing if you have capable guys on your roster to play, you play the best team that gives yourself the best chance to win.
Yeah, and that's why you have a minor league is, the Iowa. That's where he should work out some of these kinks. He's got all the raw talent in the world, Juracek, but he makes 2 or 3 plays, and he did throughout every preseason game that he was in that just what are you doing? It's hockey sense things. It's knowing where to be on the ice. It's things like that. And just talking to a lot of the Columbus people the other night who obviously are familiar with Juracek more so than even us, they say that's been his MO. We talk so much about his skating when he got here, but skating to me is not an issue with him at all. It is more upstairs and continually making the same mistake over and over and over again. So that's got to stop. And they can't afford it when points are so critical in the early season to have him making those type of mistakes.
Can you guys explain for fans just what is the gap there? Is it realistic that he can get there mentally, or do you reach a certain point where it's okay, he's not going to figure it out?
I mean, you know what? I guess I would be a little concerned that he's making the same type of mistakes. I think it can be taught, but the one thing that I noticed at the end of the preseason in St. Louis is that you could see him thinking on the ice. You could see him wanting to instinctually go behind the net and then realizing, oh, I can't, and having to get back. So right now, a lot of the things that he's fixing, he's trying to compute, but it's not instinctual yet. So I think it can. Look, he was a great player coming up in juniors, but when he dominated that World Junior Championships, he was also 20 feet above, higher than these guys. I mean, he was a huge man playing against kids, and now he's sort of, everybody's sort of caught up. So I don't know. I would say that, I am the king of he's just 21, give him time, but I am a little concerned on when he's going to get these kinks out of his game. I know the Wild still have all the belief and trust in the world with him. And I think that he has it. I mean, you see the raw talent that he has on the ice. He does things that are very, very special. It's just getting these little, huge event moments in games out of his game.
And I think on a positive note, as far as the prospects goes, Jurov made his NHL debut on Monday night. And I thought he looked pretty good. He looked solid. He didn't blow you away, but he's not that kind of guy that blows you away, right? He's a very smart player. He won faceoffs at 75% of his faceoffs. He was on the forecheck. So I think, as you mentioned, that fourth line looked better on Monday night. So when you think of his debut, and you think that's a sign of things to come, where if he gets comfortable.
I liked it. There were times in that third period and that where Hines was trying to get that line out there in areas where we didn't see them. The fourth line with Hunter Haight in the middle in the first two games, getting that type of trust. I still think there's a lot more from Liam Ogren that I'd like to see, or he's going to wind himself down in Iowa at some point. But what I liked about Yurov, and we just talked about Juracek, is that a lot of the things that they worked with Yurov on in training camp, grit, battles, all that we saw. The first period, that line didn't get a ton of ice time because of the power plays, but they started to play more and more. So, first good game. I feel bad for this kid still. His parents are trying to get his visa. His significant other is trying to get her visa. And it's just like they can't come. So he's also just alone on this island, playing these games. So I think it'll be great for him to get to New York next week. I think he'll feel a lot more comfortable on this road trip. He's going to play the Devils. He knows a lot of those guys from working out with them in the summer, guys like Brett Pesce. He's going to play the Rangers. He worked out with all those guys. So there's going to be this comfort level, I think, in a game like that. His agents will come to the games in New York and New Jersey as well. Maybe even Philly. So he'll have now people around him that he knows, whether he's competing against them or to take him to dinner and things like that. So I would not be shocked if we see a much more comfortable Danilo Yurov in the coming games coming up.
And I think give the other guys credit too. I think Kirill and Tarasenko have been really great with him. I've seen them work with him after practice and talk to him, and Kaprizov's telling him hey, your time is going to come. Your time is going to come. Just be ready, and this is what to look for. And funny, Kaprizov even translated for him other day at the morning skate, which is kind of funny, them looking at each other back and forth. How much did Kirill help you? Kirill's like this. And so it's kind of a fun to speak English, and so I think having those guys around him has made the transition a lot easier, whether it was Kirill taking to Billy Sushi the other day, or Tarasenko washing his clothes for him, or just kind of being
those are always the most awkward interviews, by the way. You do that a lot during a Stanley Cup final or East or conference final, because they'll put multiple people on the podium, and a lot of times they're sort of in relation to each other. So I remember you're talking to Barkov and Lundell, but you got to do this feature on Lundell, but you got Barkov next to him. So you're asking Lundell, what does Barkov mean to you? And it's always those funny moments that actually lead to some personality in your articles. Yeah,
no, absolutely. So I think Yurov is going to be on his way up there. I think he'll get a chance to play his natural position in center, and he'll maybe, if the second line doesn't work out the next few games, they need to do something, Mike, because
well, yeah, I mean, it's that they don't want to break up Boldy and Kaprizov, but if you're on the road, you might have to consider that at times. If it looks like you're getting no offense from everybody else, because that Rossi line's been so good, but they're at some point they are going to be enveloped, so to speak, by the opposition. So I actually think that having Johansson there makes a lot of sense right now. Unless Yurov's going to move up. Obviously, Foligno really didn't work there. They got to get Tarasenko going at even strength. He has 3 power play assists. But at least Johansson has, the ability to get the puck in the zone, and he can deliver the puck. I mean, the one thing about JoJo is that he has, got really good skills, got great hands. We saw with that overtime winner that Kaprizov scored last year, how, that last second one, how incredible a play that Johansson made. That might have even been in the finale, if I remember. Joe. And then, we saw the play that he made to Hartman in game 1 for the first goal of the season. And last night, Johansson had a great play right to Tarasenko that just got, deflected at the last second. So I do think that he probably makes the most sense right now until they can either make an acquisition, get Zuccarello back, or one of these kids starts playing above their means right now, and you can feel comfortable putting them in that type of role.
So if they were to break up Boldy and Kaprizov, what do you see as the ideal top 6? This interview is brought to you by our friends at Waggle Golf. Waggle Golf believes what you wear on the course should reflect your individuality, who you are, where you're from, your hobbies, interests, and passions. All the stuff that makes you, well, you. That's why every design is inspired by the desire to create a piece of apparel that strikes a chord when you see it. that makes you say, wow, that was made for me. Because in a lot of ways, it was. Ready to get your waggle on? Go to getyourwaggleon.com, throw in promo code SP10 at checkout to take 10% off your entire order.
I mean, I would probably, if they were to break them up, or you're talking when Zuccarello gets back.
I mean, like you're saying on the road, they might have to just because of matchup situations.
I mean,
like,
probably, I mean, really the only option would probably be put JoJo on the top line or Tarasenko on the top line and have a Johansson, Boldy, Eriksson Ek line, or
Rossi, Krill, and Tarasenko line. Yeah.
That might be something that they might have to consider. I didn't know that nobody wants to do that because the two of them have been so good together, Boldy and Kaprizov, and Rossi always is going to be the forgotten man on that line, even though he doesn't deserve it.
Hey, Mike, is the jersey safe for a little bit at least?
Right now it is. Yeah, right now it is. Right now, the Wild are swimming in center prospects. They got Stramel and Bennett and Riley Height and Hunter Haight, and so I don't know for how long, Scott.
Just for now, that works.
Yeah.
Let's talk goaltending a little bit. I know, Russo, you jinxed Gus with your opening night column on him for the next game, though we're not necessarily worried about Gustafsson and what he's going to do this year. I thought really was an important moment, I think, was Wallstedt on Monday night, his first start coming off that really rough season. And, it really could have been one of those moments where it's like, you blow a 3-goal lead and all of a sudden lose, and how you feel about yourself going into this week. And he really had a mindset that was really strong and sharp, and he really locked it down in overtime and 4 shootout attempts. And you can talk about the celebration, how much excitement and also like validation or relief or whatever. But he said he thought back to that last year in those moments, like, I know what it's like to mentally break down. I know what it's like to kind of, get lost or have a losing attitude. And he just flipped the script, and that's really showed a lot, I think, to me about what he can be this year. And I don't know what you thought about that game, but what can have a lingering impact.
I agree with you. I mean, I totally, and that's one thing we saw in the preseason. He had 2 starts where he gave up a couple early goals and settled in and was great. And this one could have crumbled him. The guy on the other end of the net, Kemper, we used to see that all the time from him, where he was great. And then all of a sudden he would just crater on a couple goals. And we saw that in Minnesota. And last night, volley, the way that he rebounded in both, shootout, but especially on that 3-on-4 where he looked so at ease and everything was like almost in slow motion. I thought he looked outstanding. And so that's a good start. It's first home win. It's putting last season a little bit behind him. They're going to need him, as we've talked about a gazillion times, to win games this year. He's going to have to probably play in Philly, because I would assume that, Gus gets tonight's game in Dallas. I would assume Gus gets the Washington game just because Gus was not very good in Philly last season in that weird game there where the Wild had a dominant performance out with a ton of shots and just he was not very good. I think he gave up 3 goals on 5 shots at one point in that game. So I would think that Wally's getting the second of back-to-back this week. So really good. As you mentioned with Gus, great opening night. I wrote the column that said that this is why the Wild invested in him. And then maybe in game 2, I should have said maybe the Wild should have invested. Maybe in the obvious column there. So we'll see. I mean, I do think that their goaltending right now is the least of their concerns. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's a testament, too, that we pretty much did the whole rundown of all the kids. And William didn't come up, and he's usually the first person we mention with that. Like, as he just fit in seamlessly and just feels like he belongs immediately?
No, definitely not. No, I think that's why he was on the third pair yesterday. I think that's where he should be right now until he's ready to play 24 minutes a night with Spurgeon. Columbus the other night exposed him at even strength, playing that type of minutes, which is why they secretly – at the morning skate, it didn't look like this, but why they going into yesterday's game, Middleton was back in the top 4 and Boylan was in the third pair. He's going to be a great hockey player. He's awesome on the power play. But right now, I think this is probably, they've got to figure out a way to maybe lower his ice time, especially on the road. So I like Boylan a lot. I think he's going to be a tremendous hockey player, but he's 19 years old. And I think that against Columbus, he looked at times at even strength.
Play like 24 minutes, which for a 19-year-old is pretty, you're going to get, some tough moments in that stretch, and like he's got such a great attitude and confidence about it. Like even if he has some mistakes, I think he can bounce back from it nicely. So, but yeah, I think putting him in that kind of a third pairing role and not having to force feed him to too many more. You have the depth to do it. You have the guys, the veterans, to play that way. I have no doubt that by sometime this season, he'll be more in the top 4 too. He has that capability, but yeah, watch him on the power play. It's kind of a risk versus reward, but when he's on, it's a whole different level than we've seen with the Wild on the power play of how he can kind of dance around and like
ever
find Kirill and Boldy. Like those guys are just in motion. There's like poetry in motion there that they're just finding a way.
Well, that's the one thing about their power play that I love right now is the motion. Like Tarasenko is doing it too. It's creating chaos for the penalty kills, and we saw that yesterday. The last 2 games, their power play has been so good, and Boyum just fits in like a glove right now.
And I think one of the guys that, with the changing of the lines last game, really kind of gave them a little bit more of a shutdown line with Foligno and Hartman and Trenyan a bit. And I think Hartman's had a really good start to the season. Picked up where he left off last year, which I think will be really important with Nico Sturm out. They need some centers to deliver. And, clearly if they get the Ryan Hartman from the Vegas series over the course of a long season, it'll be a whole different level, I think, different element they could have up the middle for this team this year.
Yeah, I mean, and look, they could even move him to wing at some point if he's going to continue to play like this. I think that'd be tough just because he's been so good in the faceoff circle. Although last night going against Kopitar, he wasn't very good. But I do think that Hartman is really picked up where he left off in the playoffs. He's come into camp in outstanding shape. I wish he loved to talk about himself more. He's hard to write because he doesn't. He doesn't give you much when you ask him about his own personal play and how well he's playing. But look, he had a great offseason. Mentally, he has admitted that he's thought way too much about that offsides, the way that I'm sure John Hines, Bill Guerin, and the entire fan base has, because the Wild would have been up 3-2. But look, I mean, Hartman, he's not going to blame Gus Nyquist or anybody for that. That's just, it's tough when you score a goal like that and you think you're going to maybe help lead this team to its first round advancement in, a decade. And then next thing you know, you're offsides. But that does happen to everybody. I mean, Adam Beckman will probably never score an NHL goal because of Ryan Hartman. So, so it happens to Hardsey too.
Yeah.
It'll be a 30 for 30 episode one time of all the guys that got their only goals in the NHL taken away from them. And the guys that buying them dinner the next day is not going to help very much when you lose your first NHL goal. To do it.
Joe, did you have anything else before we close with one final one from Waggle?
No, I mean, I think obviously it's only 3 or 4 games in at this point when this thing drops, but clearly there's a lot of intrigue about this team going into the year. There's still some questions that need to be answered, but I think going into this trip with some of the highlights that they had should give fans some kind of encouragement going forward that there are some bright spots ahead. But this trip will be a really big one and probably a really difficult one too, to see where they end up at the end of this road trip.
Yeah. How do I get one of those Waggle hats, by the way, that Joe was wearing the other day at practice? That blue one I like.
I got one coming for you. That one I got to see because they don't have that one on the site, but I think they might have it in one of their brick and mortar spots. So I will either snag that or we will find another suitable replacement for you. But
you can put it on the company card. Let's go to one of their brick and mortar. Joe could put it on the Athletic.
There you go.
Oh, no, we got it coming for you. Don't worry, Mike. Final question brought to you, as always, by our good friends at Waggle Golf. First, make sure you head over to getyourwaggleon.com, throw in promo code SP10 to take 10% off your entire order. Guys, I'm sure you've been asked this plenty, but not something I've had a chance to ask either of you, and I do think it's something that some Wild fans understand and others are kind of questioning. You see Kaprizov sign biggest deal in league history, and then subsequently you've got the Connor contract, you got the McDavid contract, you've got the Eichel contract. Do you look at the Kaprizov contract any differently because of those?
I think it'd be a lie if I said that I didn't. Look, he was always getting probably more than Draisaitl at $14 million. It's every team is a different situation. I feel like Connor McDavid's in a class by his own. He intentionally. We knew that he was going to sign under market value. I don't think any of us thought he would be $1.5 million under Draisaitl. But that's the way he wants to do on a shorter term deal. He's going to have a chance to strike it rich. He's also Connor McDavid. He's going to have generational wealth till the day he dies because he's Connor McDavid. Or maybe Kaprizov is not going to really get that, at least in this country. Maybe he will when he goes back to Russia. So it's very different. Where I don't like is that the other guys seem to be willing to play ball, and Kaprizov just listened to his agent, and his agent tried to and we said this, throughout, even when we were worrying what this meant that he turned down the original contract. I think that we all sort of hoped that maybe at some point he was just listening to his agent and would instruct his agent to just get it done. But clearly that is what happened. But his agent, just even by the fact that he countered the $17 million deal with a more lucrative counteroffer, it just shows you that he was trying to, he had the Wild by the what, and he was trying to get every ounce of penny. I don't think he makes Kirill look great here. I just wonder deep down what Matt Boldy thinks that he's making $10 million less than him. Matt Boldy, though, at 29 years old, is going to be able to make an absolute fortune. So he'll make it up. Again, I think if it's 14.5 versus 17, is it a big deal? I think it is, because the Wild are going to have to pay other guys. This does take them out of certain players. Every penny you spend more. It just makes Kirill not look the greatest when it comes to, all right, you want to win, but really how much do you want to win? What's more important to you? So that's just my initial gut, but I think the Wild had to get it done, and Kirill Kaprizov, he's already shown 3 games into the season, is worth every penny.
And I agree with Mike on that, his point there, and also on more on the Wild side. I know it would be seen as being overpay, at least at this particular point. But I think Bill Guerin's point all along was if he doesn't sign here, he leaves. This is a whole kind of a mess situation. You have to risk how much you maybe overpay a little bit here, but know that to replace him or to see him walk out the door, the 5-year plan that Craig Leopold had would have turned into start over again, and they have to figure something else out. So, I think I didn't begrudge the Wild for paying that money if they had it for a guy like that who's a irreplaceable financial player. But I do see, the whole point that fans might have of he really wants to win. That's the most important thing to him, which he said to us multiple times. $60 million, 15.5, would that be fine? It is his last contract, most likely in his career. So I get that point of it too. And the cap will go up and this will be a certain percentage. But I think this deal will be judged in the next 3 or 4 years versus the next 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah. And the other thing is, this does take money out of Zuccarello's pocket when he signs 8 one-year extensions. He's going to have to price now just to stick around this organization. So.
Maybe part of the negotiation was I just need a little bit of money on the side for my boy. That's how he's going to keep Zuccarello just hanging out just for the vibes. Do you think I don't think it'll make a difference for fans, but do you guys feel like it makes a difference that Kaprizov's kind of the first for Minnesota? You can have this figure and you can build around it with a lot of contracts that are yet to come, rather than trying to fit this in when they've already got a bunch of massive contracts in place?
Joe?
It's always good to have cost certainty, right? You don't have to worry about this for another 9 years. With him, I know you'll have to worry about, I don't know if Boldy's going to push past the $17 million all of a sudden.
100%. He might be a $25 million player by the time, his contract.
Is it 4 more years? I think it is
5, right?
I think, yeah.
29, 25, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, or maybe 4.
But still, he'll probably be passing Kirill at that point, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it does have cost certainty now. But I think the whole point in our story, last week, the Insider, was their window right now is the next 3 or so years, right? Mm-hmm. With Kirill in his prime, Boldy on that contract, Zeev Buium on his entry level deal, you have Gus signed, and this is the perfect storm or window for them to cap space, to make the moves to put them there, because eventually these guys are going to age and guys are going to age out. So I think this is the window right here, the next 3 or so years. So.
And it is 5 years for Boldy, by the way. So they got him till 2030 at $7 million. Oh my Lord! So
don't
Act 2, X contract's terrific as well. But absolutely. So fun start to the season. Mike, enjoy Vegas. I will be doing the DC, Philly, New York version of the trip, and we'll catch up with you guys another time soon.
Yeah, I won't see you for a while, Joe.
I'll leave Sammy for you if you want. You can watch Sammy again. So
yes,
just to kiss you.
Yeah, I'll be out of town most likely.
No thanks. We'll give him to Scott. Thanks so much, guys.